There are a lot of folks, young and old, who are really addicted to sex. They're addicted to pornography. They're addicted to sex. They're just into sex. And I want to know why. I have with me Skyping Galen Fous. He's an MTP, a psychologist, sex positive therapist, and author of the Sharp Edge of Love and of Decoding Your Kink. I wanted to talk to Galen about sexuality, shame, relationships, and spirituality. Galen, welcome to the show. Thanks for coming on.
Good morning, Jesse. It's great to be with you. I really appreciate getting to sit down and talk with you.
Yes, sir. Thank you for that. What is MTP? You're an MTP. What's that?
Yeah, it's a Master's of Transpersonal Psychology. So it's a branch of psychology that is involved with considering that a human has a soul, an individual being, so they have a mission, they have a journey they're on, they can get inspired. And, so it also looks at what's the opportunity in the person, as well as clinical psychology will look at more what's wrong with the person. And this includes also how can you enhance the amazingness of your own being.
Are you married with children?
I have been married. I have 2 sons now. Long divorce for 20 years, and that's a long story in itself about the separation from my sons. I'm a father, and my sons. I was an adopted boy, so I never really knew my biological father. So when I had sons, I felt within myself, wow, I want to be there for my sons. That's my mission to do that. So they're in their 30s now, doing great. I have a great relationship with them now. I'm so blessed to have my 2 sons and to be a father.
Yeah.
But I'm not married.
You've
currently.
only been married one time?
I'm sorry. Sometimes you're breaking up. There's no sound comes across in a moment.
How many times have you been married?
Once.
That's one. Okay. You write about sex positive. What is sex positive?
Well, I think everything is a broad brushstroke of definition. There's nobody who's decided exactly what that means. But for me, it means embracing the authentic sexuality that is our birthright. As I look at it, I mean, sexuality is obviously a huge part of the human soul and experience. But for thousands of years, we've tried to put a cap on it and hold it down and hide it, and which leads to people sneaking about it and being out of integrity with their agreements and such. I think sexual dishonesty is like an epidemic in our culture, where people do not understand how to speak honestly about what they desire with their partners. So that also that, hey, I'm getting with a partner. Oh yeah, you're into that too. Awesome. Let's versus never talking about it, and then 20 years later going, you mean never? People didn't make those agreements in the marriage vows. They didn't understand they were making those agreements.
Explain sexual dishonesty. Exactly what is that?
It is when we're not being sexually authentic, honest, transparent, and even excited and enjoying our sexual desire, because we're living in such a culture that doesn't speak about sexuality in a very with much depth, if at all. That doesn't mean that sexuality's gone away suddenly. So that undercurrent of sexuality is still going on, and so people are exercise. That part of them is taking every opportunity to express, but it's sneaking, it's hiding. And then it gets busted, and there's a big fall from grace. It's a terrible situation with all of this sexual dishonesty.
So are there people who are being sexually dishonest with themselves or with others about what they want from sex?
Yeah, both of those are going on. Some people do know their desire, and they're acting it out in ways that are out of integrity with their agreements and their values and their commitments and responsibilities. Other people don't even know themselves that that's what's going on. And so they're channeling maybe that into overeating or drinking or smoking or watching Facebook all day or something, but they have they don't even want to look at it themselves. They've been so oppressed in their own consciousness about how sex is of the devil, and it's just animals do that, and it's been put down. And it's been the bastard of human personality for thousands of years. It's not been invited to the table as an equal part of a human personality. It's always, nobody talks about their sexuality.
Is there, other than to get married and make babies or have children, is there any reason to have sex?
Well, I think it's the same reason that we eat, or breathe. It's an instinctual part of it. See, that's the thing, is our sexuality is very much of it is rooted to our instinctual natures, not this civilized, moral nature that's evolved over the last 10,000 years or so. We're still very primal beings, in our bodies and our instincts, and so this is what I think the sex drive is really rooted in, a lot of that energy. But it's also not just about sex. There's what I call an erotic mythos that many people have, that is showing up now in like the phenomenon of 50 Shades in Gray and such, this kink-oriented sexuality that is driven by an inner mythic story, often in the realms that I focus on, in a range of power exchange. But it's done in a conscious way, in a negotiated way, in a consensual way with a willing partner. Unlike a lot of our sexuality in the mainstream culture, people don't because they don't talk about sex. They don't negotiate. They don't agree on what consent looks like or how to stop or change. That's how we have this whole thing going on now about consent, and consent violations and such, and all of those things, again, because people haven't learned how to negotiate when they engage sexually. Sex is very complex stuff. It isn't something just to get drunk and go get banged in the alleyway for 10 minutes. If you're that's the kind of sex you're having, you're missing out.
So you're saying, yes, that there is another reason to have sex other than just to make get married and have children. You're saying that it's an instinct that is within us. And so animals have instinct. Human beings don't, unless they're in a fallen state, right? If human beings were not in a fallen state, would they want to have sex?
I don't identify with that model that you're presenting of it as a fallen state. I think it's a natural, normal state of who we are. We are both instinctive creatures, and have, as humans, besides the animals, we also have this more refined consciousness that is more reflective and rational. We can create scientific discoveries and theories. All these other dimensions of that side of our humanity is an advanced and a more newer part of who humans are. Our instincts have been with us for millions of years before this other aspect developed. So it isn't going to go, shift overnight. And I think the process is to how to integrate that into our life in a way that's in balance and in integrity. It's not about eliminating your sexuality, as I look at it. I encourage people to embrace their sexual authenticity. Claim your birthright. You were born, and you have every right to whatever your sexuality looks like. Be you gay or lesbian or trans or kinky or vanilla, whatever. If it's yours, claim it. You have the right to it. Don't anybody shame you or tell you you can't do that or you shouldn't do that or you're going to go to hell or you have a psychological disorder or you're dysfunctional in some way. If you're operating it like an adult.
If sex is natural and normal, why do people go out of control with it? Because if something is natural and normal, it stays natural and normal. But in the fallen state, when you get into sex, it tends to go out of control.
Again, I believe that's because it's not being accepted as a natural part of the being. And so the person is told, you have to control yourself. And so then again, they're hiding, they're not transparent, they're not negotiating with their partner, or be at the beginning, say like, if I'm negotiating with a partner and I say, hey, I like to have sex 5 or 6 times a week. That's my norm, my baseline. How about you? If they say, what? I say, okay, well, you have so many sweet qualities, but I don't think we're going to match up right in the whole picture of our relationship. So Normal is really personal, I believe. The out of control behavior, yeah, that's a problem. That's an issue. And people need support around that about how to learn how to integrate their authentic sexuality into the rest of their life so it's in integrity and accountable. The way that we structure it now through moralizing and shaming and guilting people because, when someone gets busted, like you see all these celebrities and sports stars and politicians get busted in their sexual dishonesty in some way or another. They were sneaking, they were hiding, they were putting on one face and being the other. That's just an epidemic. That's the tip of the iceberg of all of this fall from grace that's going on of people getting busted, being out of integrity with their sexuality. It's not the compulsive behavior is a problem, but it's not sex that's the problem.
Do you still have sex?
Do I still have sex?
Yes.
I have sex with my partner now, like probably 4 times a week. And when I say sex, that means I'm in a scene for like 4 to 6 hours of erotic engagement with my partner.
That's amazing. Galen, how can people get your book? I want to give it out now before we run out of time.
Okay, thank you. It's they can go to my website, galenfous.com, GalenFous.com, and all the information of my practice and my books and other information is found there.
GalenFous.com. And so you say you have sex when you say you said your partner, right?
Yes.
Is this with a man or a woman?
It's a woman.
Oh, and the reason I ask because I noticed that a lot of heterosexual straight people are using the word partner, but when you say partner, it implies homosexuality because that's what they use. So that's the reason I ask.
Well, I use it too, so it's got a broader spectrum.
But you know that
meaning,
it leaves the person thinking that it's with another man or something, right? When you say that.
I lost that sound again for a minute.
You know that when you say partner, the person or people that you're talking to are thinking that you're with another man.
Some people would, I'm sure.
Why use the word partner rather than my girlfriend or my wife or my fiance?
It's just a term I use. I could have used my girlfriend, my submissive,
yeah, it's best
all
to
kinds
use that.
of things I could have said.
Yeah, don't use partner.
I don't have a problem with the word partner, and I let anybody else, whatever they have a feeling about it, they're welcome to that.
Galen, how old are you?
But it doesn't imply homosexuality to me, basically.
Oh, okay.
I don't think of it that way.
How old are you?
I am 67.
And so you say you have sex 4 to 5 times a week, and right?
Yes.
And you said, is it for 5 hours at a time?
The beginning and the ending, it's over, about that long period of time, because that's where the depth of Eros is really discovered, when you can really go into these. I mean, why do people have sex? Because it's a mind-expanding, mind-blowing, mind-exploding state of consciousness that you can reach through these journeys into the deeper parts of your Eros. Most people have sex for 10 or 15 minutes. That's like getting off of the first exit on a 1,000-mile journey to Nirvana or something, It's like, keep going, man. If you're getting off the first exit, you're missing the show.
I believe when you have sex, and it should be just to make a baby, but if it's not, even if it is, but you should just do bam, bam, thank you, ma'am, and get it over.
Yeah, everybody's got their style, So,
but other than that, it becomes worshiping, and we should not worship anyone.
Okay.
What do you think? What do you say to that?
Again, I might have missed part of the word, but you said something about worshiping.
Yeah,
someone.
when you do it more than when you go longer than bam, bam, thank you, ma'am, it becomes worshiping, and you're worshiping the woman if you last more than 3 or 4 minutes.
Unless she's worshiping me.
But
so
she should.
This is the thing. The good sex is a dance. It's both partners mutually engaged in this beautiful tango of erotic ecstasy that can be found if you open up to that. If that's what you have. I mean, some people might be the 10-minute bam bam, and that's their sexuality. That's their norm. They're welcome to it. I don't have any judgment about that. But I don't want any judgment about my sexuality either. I think every person has the right to claim their sexual interactions with a consenting partner, however they define that. It's not uh, good and evil going on. It's a dance between two contrasting energies. You know, that's
You seem to leave out spirituality, or are you a Christian?
I'm a spiritual man. I have been raised a Catholic, but I no longer subscribe to. I don't think. I think it's a mystery. You know, I think the spirit, whatever it is there, but it's a mystery. Nobody's got a finger on. You know, it's not Islam, it's not Judaism, it's not Christianity, it's not Hinduism, Buddhism. Nobody knows. It's a mystery. Nobody's really. It's too beyond human comprehension, I think. And I think these myths that have come around of over the thousands of years, you know, of if that moves someone, if that makes it work for them, that's why those religions and such do exist, because they do resonate with a lot of people. But it's not everybody going to resonate, and there's not one that has the whole picture,
So you
in
don't.
my view.
So do you believe in God?
I don't know what it is. You know, God, you know, it's something that's way more intelligent than I am. I get that. The universe is profoundly complex and rich in all of these things that humans can just barely scratch the surface of how it's really operating. You know, what consciousness is even, and all of these, and these ways that we do resonate with the spirit, you know, through, you know, the sunrise or the sunset, or just, you know, being moved by another person who's there, and just the amazingness of nature. But I don't know beyond anything about that, you know.
Do you believe in God?
Um, I believe in the mystery of some sort. I don't call it God because I don't know what. I don't know if it's only one being. I have no idea.
So do you believe in God?
I do not. If you want to call, if I have to say, do I believe in God or not by some definition of God? No, I don't believe in God.
Okay. And could that be why you're so confused and you're really into sex, because you don't believe in God, so you've been separated from Him and you operate from your lower fallen nature?
I don't operate. I operate in an integrated balance between my whole being. I don't have. I'm not stuck in something from the past or ancient or the primitive. I'm an author of books. I have a master's degree. I've invented and patented on my own without a lawyer products that I sold for six figures to 200 Fortune 200 company, and I'm engaged in a rich emotional life. I'm a musician. I've written 3 albums of music in the last 4 or 5 years. So
You
I have a
said
very rich and
sex.
full, expanded life.
You said sex purpose is instinct. Um,
Well, I don't know if it's only instinct.
but you
It's
said
Eros. Eros is a part of the human conscious experience, as I have experienced it, and I working with clients and such, I have it as that way. So sex is not only about procreation. Sex is, but not Eros. Eros is about this mythic dance into our sexuality that is way beyond procreation.
let me ask, in your book, because of time, I'm running out of time here. In your book, you have an introduction, The Evolution of My Perversion. Are you a pervert?
I say that affectionately. All right, it's like again, that's a norm. My sexuality has been with me since before puberty, even. And as in my research that I do, I have a Discover Your Personal Erotic Myth survey that people can take that helps them drill down below that place they haven't looked, because we don't look at our sexuality and get to understand more what's happening when they're driven to orgasm, because there's a lot going on right before orgasm in a lot of people that's really emerging into the body. So this survey I have can help people come in touch with that better. That's on my website also.
So is that a yes or no? Are you a pervert?
Oh, I'm a what I call a fetish sexual. That means I'm driven to orgasm or other deep erotic state by a mythic, archetypal, symbolic oriented sexuality based on some level of power exchange.
I want to know. You said you were adopted, right? So you don't know your father, mother.
No, I do not.
Do you think that has anything to do with being so involved in sex?
No, not at all.
And why?
It did have to do with, my say core wound, I would call it, is abandonment. So I've had that literal experience of abandonment, and I've carried some sort of empty spot
Yeah.
in me because I'm looking for, that connection. That yearning is an instinctual part, it's part of my soul. Like so, that's what I said when I became a father. I got whoa,
Yeah.
these sons of mine need. Their father, and to embrace that. So, but no, that's I've done a lot of personal work on that. That's what transpersonal psychology has been supportive of for me to come to terms with that and recognize how that's maybe pushed me or driven me in some ways to uh, accommodate for that without taking care of my own healing work. Which I feel like I've done that. So my sexuality is innate, inherent as my eye color, and distinct as my fingerprint, as is everyone's. So I don't think there's any these idea that sexual aberrations come from developmental issues in childhood is in a great many cases incorrect and invalid. I haven't seen that in my practice. I've seen people hide and cover up or have that shaming and judgment in all the ways they've been made to feel worthless or unworthy affect how they operate their
But what you don't
sexuality.
realize is that that void that you have, that yearning of the soul, is the yearning of your father. And nothing is going to fulfill that unless you return to your father. And the way you return is to forgive him for not being there for you. And then
Yeah.
God will forgive you and he will fulfill your soul, and the yearning is gone. And because it's that yearning that have you so involved in sex. How old were you when you
I
first
don't
had?
agree with that, but I respect your opinion, Jesse.
How old were you when you first had sex?
Uh, I wished much earlier, but I was a senior in high school.
And why do you wish much earlier than that?
Well, because it was such an alive part of me that I knew it was. I mean, it was. So here's the thing with our sexuality is how I look at it. In a monotheistic culture of like Christianity or Islam or Judaism, things are good or evil, black or white, right or wrong, and that puts our sexuality, or even our bodies, have been put down into the that uncivilized part of who we are. And in my experience, our sexuality and our other parts of our personality are more like yin and yang. So like, yeah, I'm a good father. I am in service in the community. I put in 7 years of volunteer work, help supporting and mentoring teen
But
boys.
all that doesn't
Uh,
mean anything, though. What you're doing is
Not to you,
because
maybe, but it means a lot to me.
no, but what you're doing is like you're addicted to sex. You're finding other things to do that you call
Are you
good,
qualified to make a diagnosis on someone you just met a few minutes ago that I am a sex addict?
but you're
What's
using
your
all
qualifications to make that statement, Jesse?
you're using all of these outer things to try to fulfill a fatherless hole that is in you.
I have
And,
fulfilled
and
that. I've
so,
done
so
my
you
work
become
to
addicted to
fulfill that.
sex. You become addicted to sex, but you're doing all these other things. But it still is leaving that yearning, that emptiness inside your soul, because only a return to the Father can do that, and you're not doing it. Because of time, I want to ask. You were working on a book, "Man on a Mission,"
Yeah,
defining your personal code of masculinity. What was that
yeah.
about? Did you finish that book?
I'm still working on it.
What is it about?
Uh, I think men have, in this cultural times that we are in, a lot of men, in my experience, I've done a lot of men's work. I've worked with a lot of men. I've gone on, rite of passage weekends, and I'm really have been involved in men and masculinity and understanding authentic masculinity and honorable masculinity. So it's a guide. I intend it to be a guide, a template for men to start looking and examining. What am I doing? What do I have a mission? Do I know where I'm going? Am I in integrity with my agreements?
What is,
Am I?
what is masculinity?
Well, again, I'm not going to define such a broad term, but I think that's why I say defining your personal masculine code. I think there's a lot of innate, inherent masculinity that I've seen. I grew up in the 50s, so I was surrounded by men who came back from World War II and, you know, had this really strong work ethic and family ethic and community ethic and help your neighbor kind of ethic. You know, people were down to earth, salt of the earth kind of people. And that's the masculinity I learned from. And so I believe, I'm not saying that's how everyone's masculinity
You don't
should
know
look.
what it is? Do you know exactly what it is, or you don't know? You just call it
I know what it
different
is
things.
for me.
But you don't
I
really
know
know
what it
what
is.
it is for all men.
I don't think it is one thing for
No,
all
it
men.
is. It's one thing for all men.
Well, I think there's a spectrum of genetic spread
No,
of way masculinity is spread around.
no.
That's my view,
I know,
and
but that's wrong.
according to you, that's your view. Yeah.
Masculinity is not all things. It's just one thing. It is a return to the Father and loving Him with all your heart, soul, and might, that you might operate from His nature. And His nature is of love, not emotional love, not sexual love, and not that fallen state of love, but it's a
Yeah.
love that corrects others, that help to cause them to return back to their Father, to God. It
Okay.
can- it-
Amazing.
yeah, it can't be all things. That's confusing. It's just one thing.
Well, Jesse, I think you're a beautiful man, and I respect you greatly from what I've seen of the work you do and what your mission is. So, and I respectfully don't have the same worldview or
Right.
cosmological view that you do.
I
But
understand that. Thank you so
yeah,
much for coming on. I appreciate it.
you bet. It was a pleasure.
Yes, sir. Take care.